The following is a paid advertisement of St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedics. References to any specific product, services, or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by St. Anthony Hospital, Carroll Broadcasting, or its advertisers. The views expressed by the host or guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Welcome to the St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedic Show with Dr. Richard Godding. Dr. Godding specializes in joint preservation, reconstruction, and replacement surgery, and brings over 25 years of orthopedic excellence to St. Anthony Hospital and to the Carroll area. For more information about Dr. Godding, his practice, or St. Anthony Orthopedics, go to santanthonyhospital.org or make an appointment by calling 712-794-5536.
Good Sunday morning, Iowa. It's Dr. Rick Godding. Thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of time with me here. And, talk a little bit. I've been real kind of not talking as much about sports this year. And I think it's because my Oklahoma State Cowboys are so bad. They're now 0-7, having the Doak Walker Award winner, so the very best running back in college football last year, is on our team. And he's averaging this year like 50 yards a game. I don't know what has happened. We have the same offensive line. So it's terrible. But being an Oklahoma State fan is much like being an Iowa State fan, although you could argue that Oklahoma State's had more success over the last 20 years. But this being ranked really high and then having a couple of losses that really tear your heart out, I can relate to that. I can tell you that. That's been, I don't know how many times I've played that role as somebody who really thought this could be the year. I mean, we really could do something big, and then we kind of don't. So my heart does go out to the Iowa State fans, and I've been there. I've been there many times, and this year it was all over by the second game for our third game for Oklahoma State. We were just terrible. Hawkeyes are having a decent year. I mean, really, Iowa State's still having a great year, right? 2 losses, still a great year so far. They can still go to a solid bowl game and still end up having a great year. But it just, I'm sure for the Iowa State fans, it's not quite exactly what they were hoping for. So I do understand that. I am well familiar. So holidays coming up, my family, we're going to head down to Oklahoma and see my grandmother, who is 97 and lives alone and still drives and all that. And my mom, she's maybe 82 now, and she's cruising along, doing her thing. So get the girls down there to see them. It's always a nice time of year to go visit family. I love Thanksgiving, and it's just a couple weeks away. And it's crazy how quickly things move, as you get older, right? And the school year is a month after that, half over, which is just crazy. I have my oldest is a junior, so she's got, in a couple months here, she'll be 18 months from going off to college. So it's interesting how it all happens and moves along. But it's an exciting ride. It's great to watch, and it does make you feel like you miss the old days when the kids were 3 and 4, and you walk in the door and they jumped up from whatever they were doing, even if they were playing a game, they'd jump up and daddy, run into your arms. And then so that doesn't happen quite as much at 14 and 16. I've noticed with my girls, they still love Dad, and Dad adores them, of course, but just not the same reaction when I walk into the room. So I want to talk a little bit about nutrition today, and so the way I approach with my surgical patients, what I do for them nutritionally. Now, there's a whole lot of research that is now starting to show that adequate nutrition and an anti-inflammatory diet can reduce the symptoms of all kinds of orthopedic conditions. And I think I've gone over before how there are lots of people who I am coming into contact with through my carnivore diet community, I guess, and people who are thin and were thin and are going on this diet or any other diet, and their goal is not to lose weight. Maybe their goal is they have bowel problems or whatever when they have skin problems, people go on these anti-inflammatory diets. And a lot of people who are thin report getting that their shoulder or their knee or their hip feels better. And, we always knew, if you lose weight, I mean, it's very simple. I mean, you're bearing less weight on a damaged knee or hip or whatever. It's going to hurt less, right? That's been standard for as long as I've known anything about arthritis. But now what we're understanding is the different pathways by which the inflammation is reduced through the diet. And part of it is, of course, the obesity is not just mechanical, but I've gone over this a little bit before, but I just will talk again, is when you have fat cells, and these fat cells are bigger than normal and more numerous than normal, they can actually put out into the bloodstream what are called inflammatory mediators. And these inflammatory mediators can cause problems in any part of your body, your skin, your joints, whatever. And arthritis is an inflammatory process. I mean, what do you take when you go see the doctor and you have some knee arthritis? Early on, kind of one of the first things that'll happen is that doctor will say, "We'll take some anti-inflammatories." Well, why? Because it's an inflammatory process. So if you're eating a more anti-inflammatory diet, whatever that might be, the Mediterranean diet is pretty anti-inflammatory. Of course, the ketogenic diet can be really anti-inflammatory. But if you're eating a more anti-inflammatory diet, and you don't have to go on a special diet per se to make your diet less inflammatory. So things like stopping sugar. I mean, sugar is a huge inflammatory mediator. In other words, when you eat sugar, your body will have an inflammatory reaction to it. Everything from your gut to your joints, everything. And so the less sugar you eat, the less inflammation there is in the diet. So getting rid of sugary drinks is the easiest thing. If you're drinking sugary drinks, don't. If you're drinking diet drinks, I mean, I would really think about trying to limit that to one a day or even less, because diet drinks have a lot of chemicals. Just turn the bottle around or can and read all the chemicals in there. There's water, and then there's tons and tons of chemicals. That's what it is. And a lot of those chemicals can be inflammatory as well. Energy drinks as well, both diet and sugary energy drinks. And, these are the easiest things to cut out of your diet, that and processed sugar. The other thing is grains. Now, wheat in the form of bread is pretty inflammatory. So if you're going to eat bread, better bread to eat is sourdough. For whatever reason, the processing of it becoming sourdough reduces the amount of gluten and other inflammatory molecules that are in the bread. And so that's a good way. I don't think corn is very inflammatory. It certainly has some carbs, but it's not as inflammatory as the wheat. You can go online and you can type in anti-inflammatory diet, and you'll probably be surprised on some of the things that are in there. Because I think a lot of times people believe that, plants are not, they're only good for you. Well, it's like anything else. I mean, there's some plants are better for you than other plants. And then, of course, what you put on those plants. If you're putting a salad dressing on a salad, if you got just an iceberg lettuce salad with a few onions and tomatoes, pretty good. And then you dump some ranch on there, and then you've, probably made what could be healthy into unhealthy. It's hard to think that a lot of people are going to say, my knee hurts, so I'm going to have a radical diet change. It's not as compelling a reason to some people. I think it's typically a side effect of I haven't spoken to anyone who's started a particular diet because their knee hurt, unless they're trying to lose weight. But what I would say is that as your overall health improves with this diet, everything will get better. And when I say this diet, I mean whatever diet you choose that's going to be less inflammatory. So, of course, less processed foods. Anything that comes in a bag or a box is suspect. And then less fast foods. Cook your own foods. It's cheaper anyway, especially nowadays. So that's kind of the first thing I do is I tell my patients that eating more anti-inflammatory will help, even if it's just around the time of surgery and you want to get plenty of protein. And again, that's something I've talked about a lot. As you get older, you need more protein in your diet. And everybody has seen Ensure. Ensure's kind of got a lot of carbs in it, but there are other formulas. But the idea is to get enough calories and protein altogether, because oftentimes people, as they age, they don't get enough, just don't get enough food. But definitely, I mean, even if you're vibrant, you really want to make sure you're getting a lot of protein so that you don't lose that muscle as you get older. You lose it less quickly. And I do find that some people are coming in, they said, oh, I bought some little 5-pound weights and I'm doing some weightlifting and I'm eating more protein. And that makes me happy. Anytime that anything I'm doing, on this show is making people more healthy, that makes me super happy. And so specifically what I do around the time of surgery is two things that I think are not unreasonable to continue doing. One is, I've talked about this before as well, is probiotics. And probiotics are bacterial colonies that you take in pill form, capsule usually. And what it does is it tries to rebalance your gut, because your gut has all these different bacteria in it. And by rebalancing the gut, there's a lot of things that happen. It can help reduce the amount of inflammatory mediators coming through the gut. It's another source of inflammatory mediators. When I say inflammatory mediators, I mean molecules that will go to different areas of your body and create inflammation. So by having a healthier gut, that can reduce that. Specifically around the time of surgery, there's some evidence that it can reduce infection rate. And then there's evidence directly through studies that it reduces the amount of cognitive interruptions that you get. Sometimes people will get after they've had a surgery, especially the older you get. Sometimes you've heard of people having anesthesia and then they're just not themselves for a very long time. That effect can be reduced if you're having, and so this doesn't matter what surgery you're having anesthesia for. Now, if you're having a big complex bowel surgery, you probably would want to talk to that surgeon about whether you should have probiotics beforehand, because I don't really know. But certainly anything other than bowel surgery, it's going to be good to get your gut bacteria in better balance. And it's something that you can continue on afterwards, because unless you're eating a really super healthy, low inflammatory diet with all the proper stuff and maybe getting some yogurt, some other fermented foods, it is kind of tough to keep the gut balanced with the diet that we have here in this country. And the next thing specifically that I tell my patients to begin taking before surgery is essential amino acids. And these are the amino acids you cannot manufacture in your body. So your body will break down other things and create amino acids, but it cannot create these 9 particular amino acids that are known as the essential amino acids. Essential means it's essential that you consume them. So they're not available just through eating anything. You have to actually eat them. And different foods have different amino acids in them. But by loading up on the essential amino acids, there are studies that show that the amount that your muscle shrinks after surgery, specifically the data that I'm talking about are data these are studies on knee replacements. So knee replacement, the muscle around your thigh, after you have a knee replacement, that's going to shrink a bit. And it makes sense because, you're going through the tendon that attaches to the kneecap, and you're going to walk slowly for a while. So there's some amount of, we call it quadriceps wasting. Well, that is reduced significantly by taking essential amino acids. By significantly, I mean, it's enough that it was measurable when they studied people who were taking it or weren't taking it around the time of knee replacement. So I think those are two no-brainers. If you're going to have any kind of orthopedic surgery, especially, essential amino acids and probiotics should be something you consider taking, the week before, maybe 2 weeks before, and on for about a month afterwards. And then again, you could say, hey, I want to increase my exercise and I want to gain some muscle mass, so I'm going to keep taking these essential amino acids. Or I want my body to be overall healthier, so I'm going to continue to not eat the sugar and take the probiotics and that kind of stuff. So it's an oftentimes overlooked aspect of surgery, and especially orthopedic surgery, because I think that orthopedic surgery is so mechanical that oftentimes the physiology around the surgery isn't something that the orthopedic surgeon will pay a whole lot of attention to, and myself included. And before I started on my big weight loss journey in January and revamped my nutrition, I didn't think a lot about it either. And then as I went through, I was reading more and more of these studies and this and that. And so it's just something, I'm not saying that this is going to be the difference that makes you have a good outcome or a bad outcome. What I'm saying is you can stack the odds in your favor. And why wouldn't you? Very simple. These are inexpensive things, essential amino acids and probiotics. They're inexpensive. They have really no downside as far as, even ibuprofen and things like that. You don't want to take them for too long because sometimes they'll disrupt your stomach, this and that. But there's no data at all that taking essential amino acids or probiotics on a long term could have detrimental effect on you. So it's super safe. It's not that expensive. It's easy to do. And again, you can stack the deck a little bit in your favor. And, as we're talking about these things and staying healthy as you get older, I mean, part of orthopedics is we want people to not get injured, right? Because we have to see what happens when people get injured. And please pay close attention to your home and anybody who's elderly in your family. Ice safety. It is ice safety time. We see a lot of hip fractures once ice hits the ground. And just be careful. Be careful when you're going out to dinner, any place you're going publicly. It's just a good idea to pay attention to those kind of things. So, just a little health and safety updates today. And I do like to, I want to always be thinking about the patient as a whole patient and not just kind of have them come into the office and, okay, here's your knee injection, see you in 3 months. I try to, at some point in my relationship with a patient, try to talk about things like nutrition and things, because it is, some people aren't going to the doctor a lot, and so they don't have a whole lot of contact with the healthcare system or anybody who's going to give them that kind of advice. So I try to take advantage of that, and so I try to use the radio program for that as well. So I hope you enjoyed today's show, and be safe out there and eat well and get some exercise, and you have a blessed week, Iowa.
This has been the St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedic Show with Dr. Richard Godding. For more information about Dr. Godding, his practice, or St. Anthony Hospital Orthopedics, go to www.santanthonyhospital.org or make an appointment by calling 712-794-5536.